Thank you for joining us. Just a little bit about myself. My name is Shilpa Veer. I am a senior product manager at Google. And I also I'm a founder of a couple companies, most recently Zero Entropy Solutions. I have in my career, I've been in this career for over 15 years, and I have worked in startups as well as big name companies like eBay, Microsoft, Yahoo, and HP. The reason I'm here today talking to you about GHC is because I have been going to GHC for last 5 years. This year is my 6th GHC, and it's my 5th time speaking at GHC. Along with that, I'm also a career progression and job interview coach, and I routinely meet several students who are trying to get their first job or who are trying to switch over to a new career, and they can use all the help. And so with that in mind, I wanted to invite Deepika here today. Deepika, can you go to your slide? Deepika, I'm so fortunate that I met Deepika. We actually were on a panel together. Deepika is a software engineer at Microsoft, and when you hear her story, you will just have to talk to her for 5 minutes, and you will have no doubt that she knows what she's talking when she's talking about resume and ATS systems. Prior to being a software engineer at Microsoft, she was an intern in Facebook. She got multiple offers for her full-time job, including Facebook, and she ended up joining at Microsoft. She has been a 3-time GHC attendee as well. And I consider her an expert when it comes to mock interviews for SWEs and ML engineer roles. And so I'm really, really excited to have her on board. I am going to give control over to Deepika, and she can talk more about herself. And she has a presentation for you. So the way it's going to work is we are going to have Deepika's presentation on ATS systems and the things you can do in your resume to get past ATS systems. Then we're going to go live together, and we're going to talk about general resume tips for making sure that your resume is well positioned for hiring managers and recruiters. And after that, we're going to open it up for a Q&A section. So in the meantime, while Deepika is going through her presentation, please go ahead and submit your questions so that even though there is a lag, we can still work with that, and we have a bunch of questions ready to pick up when our presentation is over. And finally, we are giving away 2 mock interview sessions. Deepika, can you move to the next slide? The first mock interview will be given to someone in this list. So if you are here today, make sure you leave at least 1 comment so we know you were here. And then we're going to pick one of these people. Most likely, we're going to run a random number generator, and we're going to figure out whoever, whatever number attendee you are, and going to basically reach out to you and offer you a 1-hour mock interview session. The other way to get a mock interview session or to be eligible for that is to follow us both on Instagram and share this post or share our Instagram post about this particular event. And that would be another way for us to reach out to you and offer you a mock interview session. The sessions are worth $250 each, and I can guarantee you that you're going to enjoy and find them very, very helpful. With that, I would like to invite Deepika, and I'm going to go out of the screen now.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Shilpa, for such a pleasant introduction. So let's get started with this. This is your guide towards hacking the application tracking system, which is also known as ATS system. So let's get started. About myself, just to add on a few bits, I moved to the United States in fall of 2016 to pursue my master's from computer science. I worked as an TA for three different subjects plus as an SD at USC. I helped multiple students and my friends with resume reviews and coding and system design mock interviews. For internship offers, I chose to intern at Facebook, but I also had offers from Unity Factual, which is like a LA-based medium-sized company, and Illumina, which is a SF-based biotech company. For full-time offers, although I had an offer from Facebook, but I chose to work with Microsoft. Then I had offer from Apple, Siri Team, Bloomberg, Walmart, IBM, and a couple of more startups. So let's get started with the agenda. I'll go through what we plan to cover today. First of all, I'm going to cover what is an ATS system, then the design process for the resumes, then how should you go about referrals. Like, I'm just going to touch upon it a bit, and then what's next, and in case you have any questions. So okay, so the first point, what is an ATS system? ATS system is basically application tracking system. All those people who have learned or read about compilers, they would know what a parser or tokenizer is. So basically, it considers your resume as a big string, and it just tokenizes and parses the keywords in order to match you with the job description. So for an example, JobScan is an example which I have chosen for this presentation. It's basically and a website, jobscan.co. The link is given at the end of the presentation, which allows you to compare your resume with the job description that the company has provided. So I'll show you multiple steps, like what I did and what my observation was on JobScan. But do remember that JobScan is not something that every company uses. For example, I interned at Facebook. I know that they use something which is more internal and customized to their use case. JobScan is just an approximation. So yeah, let's get started here. So first of all, how should you go about designing the resume? So first and the most important step is that you should have relevant keywords and repeat them too. So so what happens is that, for example, if you're applying for a job which is more say Java based, or which is C++ based, make sure that you have that relevant keyword, and not just one occurrence is enough. You should make sure that you repeat that specific technology that they are specifically asking for multiple number of times. For example, even if it's Hadoop, then make sure that you repeat it at least 2 times for parser to pick it up. Now make sure that you have separate resumes for separate job profiles. These days I see that a lot of students are targeting for machine learning jobs as well. But in those resumes, if you write more about, say, GHC or Spring Boot or Python REST APIs, then that's not going to help you. So make your separate resumes for separate job profiles. Then the most important part is that your resume should be machine readable, because this is the mistake that I did. I started applying for companies the moment I landed on Los Angeles airport, and I applied for 250 companies within like 20-25 days, and I got rejected from most of them because my resume was not up to date and it was not at all in a machine readable format. So what is machine readable format? Is that your compiler should be able to pick up those tokens. It should not reject those tokens that it's unable to understand. So how can you make a resume machine unreadable? Is by adding extra fonts, like very fancy fonts which the computer probably doesn't even understand. So that is something that you need to avoid. Towards the end of the presentation, I have certain formats for you. Those formats are machine readable, so you can just use them as template to design your own resumes. And another important thing is that make sure that your resume is not too specific for a specific role. Like while you are chasing the keywords, or while you are trying to make your resume very compliant to a specific job description, make sure that it is not too specific. Because sometimes what happens is that you apply for a job, you will not get the call for that job, but they'll probably match you for some other role or some other team. So you need to make sure that your resume is diverse enough, but at the same time it's not too generic or too specific. Last point being, keep revamping your resumes, keep on adding your new skills, whatever projects you do, whatever experience that you have gained on campus, keep on adding it after every 2-3 days. Get it reviewed by multiple number of times. Ask your seniors to review it for you, ask people in the industry to review it for you, but just keep on revamping it and keep on coming back to your resume, say after every 10-20 days or so. I'm gonna switch gears a bit, and I'm gonna show you how my resume looked like when I came to the United States and how it looks like today. So when I came to the US, I did not take resumes very seriously because back in India, I used to get calls from literally every company. I didn't focus on the interviews at that time because my focus was to crack GRE, but I never had any issues with any kind of company or any calls. So this is my screenshot comparison that you can see. So the first snippet is what I had in my resume when I initially applied. Then one day my friend told me that your resume is not, it doesn't reflect what you have actually done. So I kind of revamped my resume, and this is what the final section looked like. My experience at Expedia was the latest experience that I had when I was applying for internships back in fall 2016. So this is what you can see the comparison is. And interestingly, I got reject from certain companies. Then when I revamped my resume, I reapplied to all those companies with a different email address, and I actually got calls from a few of them, Google and Factual being one of those two companies that I distinctly remember who rejected me initially, and they sent me the call later on. So what I did was that I uploaded my old resume on jobscan.co. Sorry, it should be co, not io. And what I found, so this is my resume, which I uploaded, which I was using initially when I just moved to the United States. So this was an Amazon HR who reached out to me, and this is what I sent her. And when I compared it to jobscan.co, this is what I found, that the match rate was even less than 20%. It was so low that they didn't even gave me a final match percent rate. They just said that it's too low and all the relevant skills were missing. And I'm pretty sure that this resume was not machine readable. Now, how do you figure out that whether your resume is machine readable or not? There is this website called as Workday. So a lot of companies, if you apply to them, they will redirect you to Workday website. So try to upload your resume there. If it is able to figure out various fields, then it means that your resume is somewhat machine readable. And if you feel that the website is unable to pick up any field at all, then definitely it means that your resume is not at all machine readable. Now, this is the snippet of my resume, what it looks like today. So as of now, I'm working in Microsoft Sunnyvale, so I've added my experience. So in terms of technical skills, I think this resume is not way too different than what I used while I was applying for internships. But in terms of work experience, yes, my resume has grown a bit. So now when I see, when I uploaded the current resume to jobscan.co, I found that the match rate was 50%. Now I'll also explain that why is it 50%, why not 80% or something like that. In the next slide, I'll take it. But I would say that if you get anywhere between 50% to 60% on jobscan.co, I think you are good to go. Don't target for 80% or something like that. The reason I'll tell you in the next slide. So these were my observations. First of all, in this specific software, I felt that even if you put Java for a single occurrence, they pick it up, which might not be the case in real life. Like when you're talking about Google or Facebook and all these FANGs, they might have their internal implementation, which might not give preference to a single occurrence of a keyword. Then then in my resume, there are two sections. One is technical skills and one is about the experience. I can show you once again here. So if you can see that I have a section which is called technical skills and I have a section which is called work experience. So what I felt was that when I wrote a specific skill under technical skills, then the match rate percentage didn't change at all. However, if I move that skill to work experience, then it used to get picked again, which might not be the case in the software which are used by the companies. Also, this particular software gives equal weightage irrespective of where that technology did you learn in your lifetime. For example, if you talk about WPF and MVVM architecture, this was something that I learned in 2013. So what I observed was that when I learned, so this software doesn't make any distinction whether I learned that experience way too early in my career or is it something latest. So that is something that I feel that it might not be the case in real life ATS systems. Then another reason for which I'm suggesting that just target for 50 to 60% is because that this specific scanner gives a lot of weightage to soft skills, which might not be the case for FANGs. or even other companies. So for example, I observed that in this specific software, it was asking me to add soft skills, which I think you should not do. But at the same time, I would say that first try to optimize on technical skills as much as you can, and then try to put on soft skills if you still have space on your resume. And while we are talking about the space on your resume, I would also like to touch upon the length of the resume. So if your experience is anything less than 4 years, say 3 to 4 years, I think one page is more than enough for you to for your resume. However, if you have experience like 5 and a half, then I would say 1.5 page is more than enough. And also please do keep in mind that once your resume gets picked up by the ATS system, a human will go through it. So you don't want to make it too verbose, or um, too generic or too specific, so that it gets rejected by a human eye. um, and the last point being, companies use their customized skills parsing software. So this is just an approximation. Don't just bank on it, and don't aim for too high of a percentage. This is just an approximation. Here are certain resources that I'm gonna share with you. So the first link is a website where you can upload your resume for Virtual Grace Hopper Conference 2020. So do make sure that you upload your resume to this database. Trust me, you will get a lot of calls from this database. Then the second link is about all the resumes that I found. So this is USC specific, which is my university where I did my master's from. So they have put together multiple machine readable formats. So if you go to this link, you can find resume formats for internships, for graduate students, for undergrad students, for full-time jobs, and so on. So just make sure that you should definitely check it out. Third is the link of Shilpa's website. You can get in touch with her if you want to, go for further coaching or personalized resume review. The last link is that of jobscan.co, which I extensively used for this demo purposes. These are the resources. And what's next? For any queries, feel free to reach out to me on this email ID. I have also mentioned my Facebook, LinkedIn, and GitHub links. There are certain GitHub repositories on my GitHub repo, which are related to system design or coding interviews. If you want to spawn them too, yeah, that's it. I think Shilpa, do you want to take over? Oh yeah, and now we are open for Q&A.
Yeah. So first, thank you, Deepika. Thank you so much. I don't know who else can pack this much information and power within such a small time and give actual actionable info and not just those generic tips that people can just find on online. So thank you so much for that. Now, I do want to add a few things. The way to think
Yeah.
about a resume is to think from the perspective of the audience, right? In any kind of communication, you have to think about the audience. And the resume is basically your advocate in the room when you are not there. So the three key people or the three key audiences that you have to keep in mind. Number one, the machine. Yes, the machine is an audience because the machine is trying to figure out what who you are, what you know, and what your work experience is, so that they can make appropriate recommendations to the recruiters. The second persona is the recruiter. And a lot of people think that the ATS system automatically reject candidates. That is actually not true. In reality, ATS systems will maintain a copy of your resume even if you are not a full match, because you might not be a match for this role, but you might be a match for some other role. And so the way ATS systems normally work is that a recruiter would come in and they would either search or associate a job description, and the ATS system will bubble up candidates that are the highest ranking candidates. And that's the reason why you want to build the match rate up, because then if you are not having, if you don't have match and there are all the other people who have a higher match, your resume won't even show up. That's the reason. It's not that you're automatically rejected, but the reason is your resume never makes it to the top until they have gone through those candidates that have a higher match. But if you inflate the score when it's not really a good match, it's not going to help, because at one point, even when you're bubbled up, the recruiter is going to open up and they're going to look at it and they need to feel that it is a match. So do not try to artificially inflate the score. If it's not a good match, go get a work experience, go get some sort of project that you can do and actually build that experience and fill that knowledge gap. And then finally, the hiring manager. Here, not just the skill set, but the domain also matters quite a bit. Here, they want to basically, and your recruiter does not spend a whole lot of time. They will take a look at a few key things, and if as long as if there's a brand name, any kind of brand name, whether it's a company, whether it's a school, that matters quite a bit. If there is any publication and papers you might have done that are well known, that might be also be very important. And then if you have worked in the similar area before, that carries a lot of weight also. Yeah. So if you, for example, have done something in payments, try to find the roles which are either in companies that are in payments domain or within other companies. Try to make connections within the payments teams and see if you can get consideration over there. Now, I do see a question on whether or not there should be a summary and objective section on the resume. If your story is absolutely clear, ML engineer, ML intern, ML this, and you are looking for an ML job, it does not add a whole lot of value. However, if you have a lot of multiple disjointed experiences, like in my case, I have worked in supply chain, online identity, e-commerce, web search, marketplaces. So for me, the summary acts as a way to bind all of those together in one story. And so the best way to look at it is, if I remove this section, can the recruiter still understand what this resume is about? And if the answer is yes, then it's optional. But if after removing that, it just feels like a lot of disjointed experiences, then I would say add the resume summary to it.
Also, I would like to add on this that if you are going for a career fair, then I would say that do add your objective, because the people who are looking for internships and the full time, they will be standing in the same queue. So in that case, it might help you. But for ATS system, I think whatever what Shilpa said, I completely agree with her.
Okay, and so just keep in mind that there are 3 people who are going to be reading your resumes, and go accordingly. Yes, there is a lot of cold emailing and referrals and all those things, but I'm hoping that we can do another webinar for you guys to cover some of those aspects. So for now, today we will be focusing mostly on resumes. So Deepika, now I'm going to go through some questions and see if we can answer some of them. Okay.
I just want to touch upon this .docx and or PDF thing. I think a couple of people asked it. It really doesn't matter. You can upload it on PDF. You can upload it on .docx. As long as it's machine readable, it will not impact your resume at all.
Great. Now, Khadija is asking, I have close to 8 years of work experience. How's the best way for me make my resume represent me and my work?
I think you are the better person to answer this question.
I think it really depends. See, the key thing is finding your story. If it's just a list of accomplishments, if it's just a list of experiences, it's one thing. But if you can tie it in a story and either use your cover letter or your elevator pitch or your summary section to kind of bring it all together and tell a story, it's most impactful. Also, with 8 years of work experience, there are 2 ways to go about it. If you are targeting a particular role, you want to highlight all of those things in those 8 years that are relevant for this job and give them higher weightage. Or if the other way to look around it is, some people, what they also do is they just list out the jobs, but then have a key accomplishment section where they have only listed out the things that are relevant for this job, if length is your concern. But if you have 8 years of work experience, you probably have picked up some sort of specialization, in the sense that go take a look at all the work you've done and say, what was the common thing here that I was really good at? Was it working with stakeholders? Was it debugging? Was it providing mentorship to junior engineers. What exactly is those? And then do highlight those things also, because it's one thing to work at a place, but then to build an expertise in an area is another thing, and you want to highlight that as well. Deepika, can you share your experience in interviewing for FANG companies for full-time roles?
Do we want to take it on in this webinar? um,
Um, I mean,
just
is there any
lots and lots
any
of
key
practice.
learning?
Lots and lots.
Should we do a second session for that?
Yeah, I think it's out of scope of this webinar, but I would definitely say lead code, system design, lots and lots and lots of practice, and like never ending coding.
Yes, yes. Thoughts on adding incoming intern resume when applying for jobs that begin after that internship? So right now they have not yet done the internship. They're
Mhm.
incoming intern, and then they're already trying to apply for jobs after that. So what do you think? Should they add that?
Yeah, definitely. Any skill that you can add it as like currently working on this. Definitely do add your experience.
Especially if it's a brand name, it will add a lot
Yeah,
of value, in
yeah,
my
true.
opinion.
So in
Because
real
it
life,
adds a personal proof. It's like you saying
yeah.
I'm good versus somebody else saying, "Hey, you're so good that we want you to come in."
Right,
Go
right,
ahead.
definitely. Yeah. So in some companies, when they design their own ATS system, they also add a feature that, like fetches the candidate who match to our 10% of the, best performers. So when that kind of a recommendation system is invoked, then they obviously match your keywords, which are more like your universities and companies' names. So definitely, if it's a brand name, then do add it on your resume.
Okay. Lisa is asking, what website can be used to check if my resume is machine readable?
I would say workday.com. It's workday.com.
Isn't Workday more like that employee management thing that a lot of companies use? The same Workday?
Yeah. The same Workday. So they also have this feature that allows the candidates to apply for jobs. And I have generally seen that if the better my resume got in terms of machine readability, the more Workday used to pick it up in a better way. So I would suggest that.
All right. Now, Yamini is asking, what if you have research experience? How do you bring impact in your task or role out of that? So you have been working in a research. So how do
Mhm.
you talk about the work over there? Because in normal situations, the
Yeah.
projects are much smaller. They get launched, but research projects can tend to go on for a little
For a
while.
long time. I would say that in when you are pursuing research, my assumption is that you are also applying for roles which are very specific to research area. So I don't think that it should be a major worry. But what you can do is that you can have bullet points for every research paper that you have published or presented, and make sure that you enter the very key points which actually gets picked up. So for example, say that you're working on database query optimization systems. So like I would say that add the algorithms which are specific to query optimization system rather than your own stuff that you have been working on. So what I want to say basically is that while you're doing your research, there might be some areas that you are working on which doesn't have a defined keyword yet. So avoid that and add the skill set which is industry recognizable. This is what I would suggest. But if Shilpa wants to add something to it.
No, I mean, there is, yes, launch and impact metrics are good. And there is always this question, what did you achieve? But there is an equally important question to answer is, how did you achieve it? And to Deepika's point, if there were specific techniques that you were working with, if there were specific technologies you were working with, you should mention that. A lot of times the projects don't really go all the way to the end,
Yeah.
even in other jobs, and we still can identify some milestones that we were able to achieve. So, for example, we can still say for a regular project that we conducted the user research and we found out those things. I had a particular project where we spent 3 months, and in the end, we decided that it was not the right time to do it. But I'm still going to put that on my resume and say, hey, we were able to do the market analysis where we figured out, even if the outcome is bad, we still did all that work, and we were able to save a lot of companies' investment by not going in there, right? So that's another way to put that in there. Machine the GHC virtual. The GHC virtual database changes the resume formatting to what was uploaded and previewed. Do we need to update anything to make it right?
I think first of all, try to match your resume with the machine readable format that I have shared. If you think that it still matches, then try to avoid putting any bullets or, just use a dash or something like that. Just maybe a couple of trial and run. Even if it changes, it's fine. It should not be a very big deal.
Yeah, I think the same thing Janelle is also mentioning. She's saying that her bullet points turned to question mark when she uploaded her resume, and everything else came up formatted perfectly and readable. Editing it messes it up. I think you should just let it be.
Yeah. Don't fret over it too much.
Okay. Now, I graduate in December 2020 with 3 years of working experience. Most of the companies that I apply schedule interview and later they say that they want an immediate hire. When is the right time to apply?
For I think mine, I came in fall, so I started applying around September end. I mean, I started applying very early initially, but then that did not help me because A, my resume was not in a good shape, and B, it was so much of a change in any case that it didn't help me at all. So I had to reapply towards September mid to September end. So I till September mid to October mid, I really applied to a lot of companies, and after that, I started getting calls. So it was not a problem. So I would say September mid to probably October mid. But if you're looking for full time, then I think any time is a good time to apply. For full time, it should not be an issue.
Then Anika says, if you're looking for a new grad position, should you write looking for a new grad position on your resume?
If you are in a career fair, then yes. If you're not on a career fair, I don't think it will help you in the ATS system, because in any case they have specific roles which are for new grad. So in that case, it probably will not help you.
So because in career fairs, there's, people, a lot of recruiters, what they do is they are only there to collect resumes and put them in different files. And then normally after the career fair, they're going to do a lot of follow-ups. So having that clarity over there will help them figure out which recruiter to route them these
Right.
resumes to and what level evaluate your resume against. I guess to Deepika's point, if you're actually applying for a specific role, they already have job description and they're going to match you against that. And so it may or may not be helpful. If you have the space, there's no harm in putting it. But if you don't have the space and if you're trying to limit to one, then maybe you don't have to. Okay, Synth is asking, should you apply with cover letter plus resume? What's the value of cover letters? Because in my career, by the way, I started by writing cover letters and then I was like, it doesn't matter. But then I realized that whenever you're going through a referral or if you're cold emailing, that's when the cover letter is important and not your standard cover letter. It has to be why this role and I a good match and why you should talk to me. And not this just the generic, nobody has the time to read generic ones. It has, in my opinion, it doesn't have any value. Now the ATS system might pick some keywords and I don't know about that. Deepika, do you have any point of view on that?
I have similar experience, but I think there is a company called Square which specifically focuses on cover letter. So in that case, they will not let you apply if you don't put the cover letter. So unless that is the case, I don't think cover letter will actually help you. And also, if you are writing cover letter, just don't put it, like a standard format, or if you're reaching out for referral, just don't give out the standard format. Customize it. Looking for internships and jobs is a full-time job in itself. So yeah, make sure that you work on your cover letter and try to customize it as much as possible.
So a few times when cover letter can be helpful is when you're asking people to introduce you to someone, or when you are cold emailing somebody. But in that case, let's say you're applying for machine learning engineer in Stitch Fix, And there, Stitch Fix is all about fashion, right? So you want to talk about your machine learning skills, and also you demonstrate that, hey, I'm passionate about the fashion space, and here's a blog that I've written. So it has to be very, very targeted for that particular role. And it should be short. It cannot be a big essay. It's like, here are 3 things that should give you confidence that you should open my resume. Now, next. So we already talked about DocX one. Do you still provide review if I sign up today? Yes, we will. And I'll talk about that in the end. Bank companies expect a certain resume format, 2-column resume? I don't think so. No. Although I have seen a lot of very visual resumes, and they look very nice, but just make sure they can look as nice as you want, but if the machine cannot read them, you're going to miss out. So just make sure it's machine readable. Because even after you've sent your resume to a recruiter, they're probably going to put that in a system. And if you're not a match for that role, and if your resume is not machine readable, for other roles also you'll miss out. Okay. As a master's student looking for full-time new graduate positions with 1+ years of work experience, would it be better to place experience in projects above education? So basically, they have some work experience, so it's relevant, but they've just been there for 1 year. So what do you recommend?
First of all, I would also recommend that don't put the projects which everyone in your class is doing. That's the first thing. And then positioning comes. So make sure that your projects are a little bit different than what your peers are doing, so that it doesn't come across as a homework assignment, but has some kind of a, like, value into it. And depending on the positioning, I think education just takes 2 lines either ways. Like, it's your undergrad university and your grad university. So this is what the standard format that I have been sticking to, but I think Shilpa would have more information to share regarding this.
So again, I think it all depends on what you think is your value prop. If somebody came to me and said, hey, I'm studying in Stanford, and that's what I've studied, but after that I worked in something and I tried and it didn't work out or whatever, I would say lead with the education, lead with your strong points. If your GPA or college education was not really brand name or something, but you landed an internship in a really good company, or your work experience is in a really good company, lead with that. So you should always lead with a place of strength, in my opinion.
Right.
And I remember I had one client. She just got a job recently, so I'm very happy about her. But she had education from Caltech and Stanford, and then now she was looking for a new job. And I told her, put that up, and in your elevator pitch also make sure you mention that you learned product management from some of the best minds in Stanford, and computer engineering from some of the best minds in Caltech. But then I had another client, and she's wonderful. I really love her. She has created 3 businesses while she was in college, but her college degree is not one of the Harvards and everything. So there I actually tell her, lead with your entrepreneurial experience, talk about how you came up with the ideas and how you launched those things, and put the education a little bit in the back. So you have to basically judge what is your main selling point. Now, next we have, does it matter if the resume is 1 page or 2? Well, the reason they say 1 page is because people lose interest very fast. And if they don't like some on the first page, chances are that they will not go and read the second page. Because also it's relevance also. A relevance and not newness, recentness, or whatever that word might be for that, right? Recency. And so if they don't find something relevant right away in your recent experience, they probably don't want to go. So give them, if you have second 2 pages or even 3 pages or whatever, I don't recommend going that. But if you have that, make sure you have given them something that they like and something that they want to see, or something that they value in that page 1. Then they're going to read the page 2. My resume is not 1 page. I mean, I have close to 20 years of experience. I can't put that in 2 pages.
Right.
Not
And it's also about
2 years ago, I actually had 3 pages resume and it was just fine. Now I've reduced to 2.
yeah, and it's also about like whether if you're applying for a Java development job, then having a 3 page, even 2 page resume for gaming development is not going to help you. 1 page of software development is going to help you over there. So yeah, just make sure that it depends on your years of experience and also the kind of job that you're applying for.
All right, next. Do bold format for important skills make a difference on resume? Not to the machine, I think.
No,
But
it
what
doesn't.
you can say is fluent in so and so, right? And familiar with so and so.
But
Or
underlining
Java
can mess up with your,
5
like underlining and specific curly fonts, they can in fact mess up with the machine readability, but bold will not, as long as you have like normal characters, the normal Times New Roman font, then it should be fine.
No, but I think the question Riksha is asking is, does it matter? Does it give more?
Okay.
Visually, maybe,
Hmm.
yes.
Hmm.
But machine-wise, no.
No.
And the best way to do that is then actually just say fluent, Java fluent, JavaScript for intermediate. And then if you're not, don't write beginner, just like leave it.
Right.
Okay, Nasya is having a hard time finding the feature on Workday. So maybe we'll put an instruction or two. We'll follow up after this webinar. We'll actually send out an email
So
and
what
we'll actually put some of the
uh,
resources there as well.
yeah, so what I meant was that in on LinkedIn, if you while you're applying for jobs randomly, you'll come across an opening which points you to Workday. So that's what I used. Like I don't have the companies on top of my mind who use Workday, but yeah, we can follow up on that.
Okay. Some suggest to quantify every bullet point on your resume. What are your thoughts? Yes, the more you can, the better. I have seen some really, really bad resumes from people who have been in the industry a really, really long time. And they would do things like, my job is to collect requirements and then work with the engineers and this. Like, I don't care what your job is. What did you actually do?
Hmm.
Because you are not supposed to just do your job, right? In your job, you might be asked to do multiple different things. If you only tell me what your job was, it still doesn't tell me whether or not you did that. When you say, I launched this thing, this was the impact, this was the problem it solved, or this was the cost saving that happened, now I know exactly what you did. And then I can compare apples to apples between Deepika and Shilpa. Shilpa says she created a hello world in machine learning. Deepika says she wrote a whole research paper. Okay, let's call Deepika, right? So you have to talk about what you did and what was the impact and why was it worth, and if it was not an important work item, if it didn't have an impact, why were you spending time on it? So you have to justify that it was a project worth doing and this was the impact of doing it. Now let's go down. Should we add only those skills in which we are highly proficient?
Yes, because if you say that you know Docker and Kubernetes and whatnot, and they ask you the first question about it and you don't know, then don't write it at all. Like if you don't know what neural networks are, and if you can't explain them, then don't put it. I mean, if you're just aware of a certain technology, I think you should not put it unless you have actually read about it, or you can defend at least one or two questions about it. So I think that's when you should put a technology on your resume.
See,
Shilpa, your thoughts?
my point of view is similar, and I would say that if I ask you a question and you cannot answer that, not only I know that you don't know that technology, I'm now in my mind questioning every single thing put on that
Exactly.
resume, and you've lost your credibility in front of me. So
Yeah.
just to raise the match and all, don't put that. And if you're really, really going to put that, you want to be clear on how you frame it. You want to say something like, interested in learning more about so and so. I don't know how much value it will, like, or really passionate in this space, have been reading up on XYZ, then I know you've not done any work. You've just read up on it. But don't claim to be knowing something when you don't. In fact, actually, like I said, I've been working for a long time. And so there are several projects in my earlier jobs that I have actually intentionally removed because I don't remember the details. I don't even put actual work that I've done on my resume if I cannot remember the details or can defend that.
Correct.
That's how strictly I would advise you to do that. Okay, what type of skills should you add to your resume? Example, if you've worked on AWS only for some time and used some services, should you add it? We just answered that, right? So we just simply said that if you feel comfortable answering questions, go ahead and put that, because you might have only done a little bit, but you might have taken courses and you might have actually learned a lot about this. So
Right.
it's really up to you how you rate it. How good should the projects be to include them in the CV?
And not what everyone in your class is putting, first of all, and second of all, there it should be something different. It doesn't have to be drastically different. So for example, if you are doing some kind of data analytics course, if say there are 60 students in your class and each one of them is referring about some kind of weather forecast that you did using data analytics, it's not going to value you much. But if you just go to Kaggle and if you take one different data set and slightly change the project aim and something, it just shows that you have really done well apart from your peers. And also I would like to say that if your project is something that you can upload on a, say, a free domain or something like that, you can also do that. You can include the link for that project, or GitHub profiles, just shorten the URL and you can include them in your resume. So that is what I also did for a couple of companies. But then yeah, this is something that I would suggest that you can do.
And Shweta is asking something that we have partly answered. She's saying that she has 6 years of experience. Should she add all the years of experience? What if she only adds relevant? You can add relevant, but if you think that there is a particular role that's requiring for 4+ years of experience, you can basically at least voice over by saying 6+ years of experience and then say relevant experiences here. And then when you do talk to recruiter, you can explain, I actually have more work experience. I didn't put that in. Would you like me to send you a detailed version of the resume? And I've also actually seen that sometimes the recruiters or even the hiring managers will actually pick on something completely unrelated because for you don't know it's related, but for them it was somehow super relevant. But you don't know that just by looking at the description. So you might not want to highlight it, but if you think it's valid work experience and it's at least relevant to tech, think about whether you want to leave it there in a non-eye-grabbing way, I guess. Okay. What do you think of referrals? Great. If you can go through them, definitely go through them.
Yeah,
Do they
definitely.
have to get a little bit noticed? Well, actually, there are companies that actually play a lot more importance to referrals than they would to direct applicants. And
Netflix is
not
one
just
of
that,
them.
but if you go through a referral, you would actually get an answer. You will
Hmm.
actually, even if it's a no, you will actually get an answer
Right.
and within a certain time frame. So
Yeah.
yes, go through them. Okay. Over a long span of 7 years, how many projects does it make sense to put on your resume? And also, if it crosses one page for 7 years, yeah, it's okay if it crosses one page. Isa, what if you're interested in two different kind of roles like UXR and PM, and how do you go about that at GHC in terms of resume, LinkedIn, and talking to companies? So this is a special case, right? She actually has internships. I know her. She has. I love her, by the way. She has UXR as well as PM experience, and she's equally capable in both of those streams. And she's trying to figure out with Grace Hopper specifically, what
Hmm.
should her resume strategy be?
Wow, this is a tough one. In terms of database, I'm not really sure that whether do they allow to upload for separate profiles or something like that. But once you talk to the recruiter, I think you can. But I would really suggest that pick a site. I would really um,
So
encourage you to do
the way
that.
I'm thinking about it, and tell me, Deepika, if you agree or not, is have a prioritizer. Because if you have PM, one of the
Hmm.
core skills is prioritization, right?
Right.
So you
Right.
need to know what's your P1 and what's your P2,
Yeah.
right? Secondly, if the resume database, and I haven't played much time because I didn't upload my resume this year, but in the past years, they allowed you to upload multiple resumes and apply to different companies using different resumes. I'm hoping that it's the same thing this year. And if
Hmm.
it is, you can have 2 different resumes, and then based on a company, you can say, for this company, this is my P1, and apply with that. And I don't know exactly because I've not gone through the resume myself, but I'll probably play around with that and I can answer that later. I would like to apply for an MLM internship, but I only have one experience. Most of my work has been in software engineer. How can I reflect my experience if it isn't my main area?
You know what? It's fine to have like 1 or 2 projects of software engineering, even though you are trying to apply for ML job. But make sure that you have done projects in that domain. So you cannot have just 1 year of experience, no projects, and aim for machine learning job. So you should add, something like I did this project on Kaggle, or I did this with neural network. Even if I implemented this research paper, that is also fine. But I would say that do have project section which is bigger than work section and on your resume specifically.
Okay. Now we are actually almost at the end of this session. So I'm going to do 2 more questions, and then we're going to talk about the raffle. And also we'll talk about what other services we offer. And if you want to get in touch with us for any of those, how do you go about that? Okay, let's do 2 more questions. So Syed,
oh, you picked Syed's? Okay.
No, you can pick one.
So I was going to talk about this certification thing that Anusha mentioned. See, certifications are not going to help you if you cannot defend your skill set. Or, rather than writing that I did this course from Coursera, writing about a project that you did is going to add way more weightage than just simply stating that I did this course from so-and-so. Shilpa, do you have a different opinion on that?
Yes, my point of view is that the Coursera and all the other courses are there to help you because you have interest in learning about something. Reality, as much as bad as it sounds, most people don't give any attention to your Coursera courses. As a hiring manager, all it tells you is you went and you looked at some lectures. But then if you didn't apply, if you didn't do a project after that, it is of zero importance. I'm sorry if it sounds harsh to you, but there was a whole thread in Blind, and I actually almost wrote a blog post on this, on when to do a Coursera course and talk about it and when not to. And if you don't have other experiences to kind of add weightage to it, you can mention it, but don't expect anything out of it. Okay. Deepika, which one do you want to pick? One more.
Format we have already taken. Hobbies, no. For example, I may have a cooking channel where I to improve view or blog. Is it unprofessional? It's not about being unprofessional. It's about, is it matching with your job profile that you're applying or not? So if you have done some kind of so if you have used YouTube APIs to design a visual analytics dashboard, then yes, it's gonna really be something very different. In fact, this is something very unique that I have also read in some time. But if you are just using if you're just gonna mention that, hey, I have a cooking channel, then no, that's not gonna help you get a software development job.
Yeah, +1 to that. Your hobbies are, unless you're applying for a role in a company that does cooking related things, if that was related to the domain, then yes, go ahead and mention. Sometimes some people think that I don't want to come across as a robot and everything. That's fine. I mean, you can mention it, but it just takes away. I saw somebody's resume, and she was a product manager, and she had beauty queen of so and so. I'm like, okay, how is that relevant to their PM job? Are you applying for Trump International, who organizes pageant, and there this experience can be relevant? If not, help me understand, because what you've done is, by putting every word on your resume, you're asking somebody to spend mental cycles reading and parsing that. And if that parsing is not going to help enhance your candidacy, why put that in there? So just only put that when it's relevant. So especially the YouTube channel, if you were going after a software engineer or data engineer, then you can say, I use the analytics to improve this, and I played with this API. All of those things are relevant. Then cooking is actually secondary in there. What you're actually saying is, I am skilled at using APIs, collecting analytics, and working on it. So that's what you're saying over there. All right. So I'm going to stop the questions here. For the giveaway, let's do this. Anybody and everybody who's attending here, just make sure you leave a comment. Could be any comment, could be a name, could be something else. We will do a random so I'll give you a minute to do that. And while you're doing, after you've done that, I'm going to run a random number generator. There are 62 people watching this right now. So I'm going to do a random number generator, and we're going to figure out who in that comment section ends up winning that. So that we can take care of right now. If you miss out, don't worry. Go to Instagram. My Instagram handle is Shilpa Veer, and Deepika's is never be ordinary _ never dot be dot ordinary. And from there, we can, in fact, if you go to my IG profile, my first link, first post actually has the details. So you just have to follow us over there, share about this particular webinar in your stories, and you will be contacted if you win the second giveaway. Okay, let's see. Everyone already put some comments. I remember the rhythms comment was the last one, so I'm going to count from there. And in the meantime, I'm going to have the random number generator ready to go. Okay, 63. So we have 63 people. Okay. No, and don't worry, it's not number 7. We're going to run it again. All right. All right. I'm going to now just randomly generate between 1 and 63. And starting from rhythms comment over there, we will go down and count. And we can do that later also, but here it goes. 15. So comment number 15 after rhythms comment. I will calculate who you are. I will reach out to you, and we're going to offer you a mock interview session. It could be, and it does not have to be software engineer. If it's software engineer, Deepika will do it. I can also do it, but she's graciously offered to do that. And if it's any other role, I'll do it. And with that, the few things that we do is, you can go to my website, shilpaveer.com. I'm actually really pleased to announce that Deepika and I are collaborating, and she is going to be coming on board and helping out with the SWE coaching and interviewing. And so a few things that we offer pretty much everything, starting with your resume creation and review, then job search strategy, preparing for interviews, practice interviews, and when you actually land a job, we also do career coaching. So a bunch of different things we offer. We have some testimonials already on my website that you can look at, and reach out to us through my website or LinkedIn if you have any questions. I hope you really found this helpful. I know I had a great time. I learned so many things from Deepika. Deepika, I hope you liked it.
Yeah, thank you so much for organizing it. And thank you everyone who attended it and gave us their time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. We'll send out an email.